Hi folks, this is Kevin here with Map Practical. For the Advanced Cartographic Design Lab 3, we do a mini atlas. And so we'll be producing a physical geography atlas, a cultural geography plate, and then a thematic plate in the atlas. This one's going to be the cultural geography plate. So I just want to show you a quick little workflow on how I'd go about it. So here we've got, the good old natural earth kind of raster. I've actually made it semi-transparent, 60%, just so that the blue isn't quite so strong. You can see what it looks like in its native format. And that might be good for the physical plate, but for the cultural plate, I kind of want to subdue the colors and stuff. So I'm going to take that back to 60. And I found this really, really cool hand-drawn shaded relief. So that's from Shaded Relief Archive, but I wanted just the continent to show up and then get the water from the natural earth. So how I did that is I had the countries of Latin America or South America all dissolved, and then I just used that under my layers and then on my data frame tab to clip to shape, and I told it to use the dissolves clip, right? And then I told it under exclude layers to exclude the natural earth, 50 million shaded relief with water, so that that doesn't get clipped. And what you get is something messed up. Let's see. No, don't warn me. Yes. Oh, what happened there? I think I messed something up. Let's go back in there. Clip to shape. Oh, that's the problem. Is it tell outline of layers? There we go. There we go. All right, so that's my raster. So then I just exported that, right? So file, export, 300 DPI, change that to a TIFF, 300 DPI TIFF, and export that guy out. I've already done it, so I don't need to do it here. So then I'm done with my rasters. So I'll turn those two off, and then I'm going to have to go in there and tell it not to clip anything. So no clipping. Great. And then I've got my graticules, so I got those actual lines so I'd have control of them. They're going to be vectors when they come out. I got those out of the natural earth data. And then I had already showed you that I had dissolved all the countries of South America. So I just went in and I selected all the countries of South America, exported those out as a standalone, and then I went ahead and ran the dissolve tool, but I didn't have any of the attributes selected, and then that created just one outline. And I'm exporting that as a filled polygon with no stroke and no transparency, so that it will show up inside of Illustrator nice and clean. And then the countries. So here are the countries. I've gone ahead and labeled them, so just in all caps, but it doesn't matter. I change it up so it's easier to select them out inside of Illustrator. And then a different color for each one, and that's actually easy to do right from the symbology tab. You just choose unique values, country, add all values, and then I went ahead and right-clicked here and said properties for all symbols and took the stroke off of all of them in one shebang. And then we have that. And then I also downloaded from the Natural Earth stuff the interior boundaries. So these are the 50 million admin 0 boundary lines land. So they're inside the land. I can change that color and it'll pop a little bit more. Let's make it something like red so you can really see it. There you go. So those are just the interior, and they just help with a little bit of stylistic stuff that I do. And then maybe the most difficult one was the places. So I went ahead and symbolized these things, and you'll have to get into the attribute table on the different places inside the natural earth data. I think actually I went back and grabbed the 10 million populated places simple to get this, but I went with scale ranks and I only left 0 through 3. If I did too many, then I just ended up with way too many cities. So I just found by playing that that was about the right one. And then for labels, I made a couple of label classes. So I of course made a capital, and under that SQL query I told it if the feature class equals admin 0 capital, then we're going to label it with a bigger label, right? And that's what you can see Brasilia here, Montevideo, right, and Santiago. And then in my default class, what I did under my SQL query was if the scale rate was within 0, 1, 2, and 3, so the same ones that I have symbols showing, then show it. And if the feature class does not equal admin 0 capital. And that was so that it wouldn't relabel any of the capital, okay, capital cities. So that's how I did that. And I got that all set up, and then I was ready to export this out. So I just went File, Export Map, and South America, and this is actually going to be my cultural map. And it could be called your political map too in AI. And then I always do this as 720 DPI so that it comes out as nice fine resolution, doesn't snap any of my notes to strange places, and save it in the folder that you're working in. And then I'm done inside of ARC. Although probably be a good idea to throw a scale bar on here when you do your export, things like that. As long as you don't change the scale and the location of the continent on your layout, you can use the data frame to re-register things in Illustrator. If you ever change that though, then you're stuck. Then it's hard to get back to the same place again. So sometimes what I do is I'll go into the layers and then I'll go under general, oh no, it was data frame and extent, and just locked it at a fixed extent and say okay. And now I can't change it, right? So I can't change the scale. You see how the scale is grayed out. So now I could actually close ARC and I could come back to it, turn everything off, and just do a scale bar or whatever else if I had a new layer. If I decided, oh, I'd like to have some rivers labeled in my cultural, I could come back and get them and re-import them and use the registration of the data frame to register things inside of Illustrator so they'd all line up. So let's just close that out. Yeah, we'll save it. Great. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up Illustrator and File, Open, go to the folder I've been working in and find that cultural. So there it is. And it's going to ask me, do I want to update the legacy text? Always update it so that it comes in nice and clean. And there we go. So we brought this over to Illustrator, and it's kind of messy right at first. So we're going to go ahead and first take a look inside layers. Everything came in. We've got our graticules, our dissolved countries, our full countries, the borders, the inside borders, places simple, labels, and then other. First things first, go ahead and get all these guys out of here and take them out of the layers. Great. And then that layers down below, I can turn that into my relief. If I could spell. Great, so that's just going to be where I'm going to put my relief, and I could probably just go ahead and do that. I'll just lock all my vectors, turn them all off, highlight my relief. I'm going to go up to File, Place, and then I'm going to navigate to the relief that I made for this, Best. In this case, whatever you named it, it's a TIFF, right? So it's a raster, and then Place. And then you get this tool. If I were to click and drag, it'll place it inside the box I create. But if I just click once and let go, it'll give me the full size. But you want to register it in the top left corner. So I get all the way up in the top left corner, try and get it just right. Oh, come on now. Boom. And it wasn't quite right. I'll just hit the key until it goes over a couple. There we go. Okay. So now that is registered on my page. And since I exported it out as an 8.5 by 11, I'm working in an 8.5 by 11, my vectors are all in that size, then it should all line up. And you can test that just by turning on this, and look, it lines right up over all the countries, or all the relief, right? All right, so I can lock my relief. And now I just work through these things. The graticule, great, we can get to that. I know in some of my workflows I've talked about getting rid of the clipping mask. So when you export things out of ARC, you get a bunch of clipping masks that come into Illustrator. If I turn this one off, you'll see that the lines extend past my frame. That's because I didn't try to clip them to my data frame inside of ARC. That's handy. I could use that, but it does make things a little tricky for styling. So I'm going to keep it inside of here because it clips it up nice. And we'll get back to the graticule later. We don't need to mess with it right now. We don't need to mess with the country dissolves either. Let's go ahead and fix up my countries here. So that clipping mask right there, again, if I turn it off, you'll see that there are some countries outside. I'd like to keep it, but it's going to make it hard for me to actually assign the styles. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select that guy, and I'm going to go up to Object. Oh, I guess I actually have to select it. Oh, it has to be turned on so I can select it. There we go. Object, and then Clipping Mask, Release. All right, and then I'll just lock that path, and I'll reuse that path to make another clipping mask later. So now I can go through and assign my styles. So how would we do this for cultural? Well, I want to see some of that relief under there. There's a really nice style I've seen in Atlas I liked, and I actually already made some graphic styles. They're not in this new document, so I can import them. I'm going to go to File, and then Open, Graphic Style Library, and then Other Library, and then going to go in and open it to the one that I use. So there they are. So, and then from this little guy, I should be able to just add these guys right to my graphic styles. So hold down my shift and select them all and drag them up, and there we go. Oh, I got 2 copies of that one. Let's get rid of that. Alright, so I've got my country through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, my neat line, my shoreline. I don't need my library open anymore. I've got internal borders and shoreline. Oh, and I've already clicked on the Brazil and gave it that one. So it's this cool look. I actually don't want that for Brazil. I like the big green for the Amazon. Alright, so how this is built up, when you select one of these, if you go over here and look in your appearance palette, you can see that there's no stroke on this guy. It's got a fill that's a green color, and that was from a set of swatches that I had built off of an old map that I liked. And then it has an opacity of 70%, and it has an inner glow. And if I go in my inner glow here, my inner glow is just a screen with white, opacity 80%. My blur on the outside edges is 10 points, and it's to the center. And that's what it looks like, okay? So that's what I've created for this particular look. And it gives you this kind of cool, harder green around the outside, and then you see the shaded relief on the inside. All right, and then I can just go through and click on these and assign them different styles. And like I said, there is this idea that you should only need 5 styles to style out all the different countries in a continent, and you should be able to have enough diversity in between them so you don't have overlap, because you can't have this big green Brazil touching another border of another country that's also that green. It just doesn't look right. Actually, I'll probably make Chile green as well. Argentina, go with the red. Or is that the same that I did there? No, I think that's different enough, but actually let me go with like a, there we go. And this guy, go with a little brown one, super. What about this? Great. And then these ones up here along the top are going to get tricky, right? So got to play with it. Maybe another green there. This guy can't be the green. Maybe it could be a light. Yep. This one could go with that color. Maybe go back to that. That. And let's try and get that last one. Oh, we still got old Uruguay hiding, or Paraguay hiding out there in the middle. We'll have to change that one. There we go. All right, Panama's going to have to get something. Panama seems like it's a pretty green country. Throw that in there. Cool. And you can see that that style didn't work so great on it, so I can always change it. So I can just highlight that one and then go down to my inner glow in the appearance palette, and then just I'm going to change that blur down to 5 and see if that helps. And you see it's previewing it right on. Yeah, we'll stay with 5. Now it no longer now is attached to the graphic style, but that's okay. It's just a modification. Oh yeah, we got to do something with this guy. Let's go red in the middle. All right, so there's all my countries. Falkland Islands probably should get something too. They're a standalone country. What about red for you guys? And that one really is going to need a change, because then the glow is really going to mess it up. Let's take it down to maybe 3. Okay, there we go. And then you got some of the islands up here you got to work with. Maybe Costa Rica is going to need something, but I am going to clip that. There we go. All right, so now that I'm done adding all that stuff, I can actually unlock this path and then just highlight the countries, these countries, and go to the layers and then make clipping mask. And because I had this clipping path already in there, it went ahead and clipped it off just like that. Okay, lock that off. Looking pretty good. And then it's always a good idea to save. Automatically, when you convert that text, it adds this word converted to your AI document. If I go to File, Save, I want to get rid of that converted. And it's going to say, well, you already have one in here called this, and I know, and that's what I want. And save it. Super. All right. Now we just move through some of these looks. So this is a pretty cool look for a cultural map. The inside boundaries, here's that thing that we were talking about before. So I could have it without those, but I like to have a little bit of a differentiation between the borders. So I'm just going to turn off the clipping mask. You see that left a couple borders there. That's not that many. I could get rid of those pretty easily. So if I were to actually get rid of this clipping mask, go to Object, Clipping Mask, Release, that'll get rid of it, and now I only have just these 2 little pieces, and that just makes life a lot easier. So if all my other layers are locked, I can drag a selection box over the whole continent, and then I'm just going to add this internal borders to it. And yeah, so now they're nice little white borders. Let me zoom in so you can get a look for it. See, I think that's a pretty nice look. It's up to you. You know, if you don't like it, then you don't have to do it. But then I'm done with that guy. And then my countries dissolve, same type of thing. It's a clip group, but this one I'm pretty sure I need it. Yeah, it'd be hard. I could get rid of these Central America countries, but I'm just going to lock that. And then I'm going to go ahead and give this a selection. So I selected everything, and then I'm going to do my shoreline. All right, and that's what that did. It gave me this cool shoreline, and if I zoom in, let's see. Oh, wait a second. I think, oh, yep. It shouldn't zoom in here. If I turn it off, let's see what happens when I turn it off. It's not there. It is there. Oh, I see what's going on. I actually am going to have to move my shader relief a little tiny bit. What did I just do? Oh, I turned off my relief. There we go. Select that guy. Oops. I'm going to hold down my, there we go. That makes it look a little bit better. Cool. Go back out. Lock that guy. Excellent. So that's just a little bit of a shoreline look, but for some reason I'm getting it where it's, yeah, it's messing up my other, let me see, what can I do? Let me go ahead and get all these guys again. And so it does have a stroke, but it should have no fill. So why? I think what I need to do is just make sure that there's nothing in any of those interior ones. It should have been my interior borders. Oh, I think it's the problem. See, it's the clipping path. The clipping path is giving me issues. So let's go ahead and release that bad boy. Object, clipping mask, release. There we go. And now lock that path. Drag a selection box over everything. Let's clear the appearance and now add the internal, oh no, not internal borders, no, I want shoreline. There we go. Okay, now it finally works. So now I don't have a blue fill on the inside, but I have that cool looking shoreline. But to get rid of these Central American countries, then I'll need to create clipping mask again from within the layers. Make clipping mask, boom, now they're gone. Super. All right, let's see, what else do I have? Up here at the very top, my other is just the stroke that is the data frame, right? It's that black stroke, so I definitely don't need a clipping mask on that. So I can just delete that guy. And then I don't need this thing to be grouped, so I can go up to Object, Ungroup. Great, now I can just select that guy, and I made a neat line. And there we go. So the neat line now has got this cool looking little dark dashed border right there. And what that is created by is, if you look down here in my appearance palette on that neat line, let me make sure it's selected. I've got 3 different strokes. I've got a stroke at the bottom of the stack, and you can add new strokes and fills down here in appearance. I don't have any fills right now, but I have a stroke that's at the bottom that's at 1.5 points thick, and then I have a stroke in the middle that's 1 and white, and that one is behind the black dashed, and so then I have one above it that's at 1 point and it's dashed, and you'll see that I have a dash with 12-point gap in between it. I also made it so it has clean corners and lines on the corners. So there you go. That's how I created that. All right. Now let's see, places simple. Yep, here are all my little simple symbols. I'm gonna not need a clipping mask on that guy either, so I can delete that guy. And I ended up with a couple on the outside. That's all right. I can delete those easy enough. Oops. I have something else unlocked yet. It's always important to keep all the layers you're not working with unlocked. What's going on here? Oh, they're still grouped, so I'm getting everything at once. Control-Shift-G is also an ungroup. It should let me ungroup them. If not, Object, Ungroup. There we go. Now I can delete these ones that are outside my neat line. And so I've got all these different symbols on here. I'm just going to replace them all with one, and then I'll go ahead and fix them in another way. So here's my places simple. I'm going to drag a symbol that I created. Oh, I'm going to have to actually add those. So open symbol library other, and it's going to be the same place It's going to be in my best. So you can store symbols, graphic styles, character styles inside of another Illustrator document. And so there they are. Close that library. And I'm going to drag one of these symbols for other towns out. And then I'm going to drag a selection across the whole thing. Okay, so now that has selected all of my towns. Make sure nothing else is selected. Oh, my other is. So I only want one layer open. And now I've got my symbol and all my little towns that came out from ARC. And I'm going to go to File, Scripts, and choose Find and Replace Graphics Center. Now that's a script that I got from Kelso Cartography. You can go to that website and download it, and then you just need to put it in the scripts folder for Illustrator. It's not too hard to figure out, and once you have that, of course you'll have to close and restart Illustrator. You'll be able to use this script, and it will go ahead and replace every one of those little towns. So now they are all a cool little symbol that I created for the smaller towns, right? But some of these are going to be capitals. So now I want to switch them out and have capitals, and that's what my other symbol is over here. So I'm going to lock that guy and turn my labels on. Whoa, now I got way too many labels. That's okay. Let's turn off the Graticule label, the country labels, and I have one of these, which is capitals. Let's see, not that one, that one. Okay, so there are my capitals. Now you might notice if you click on one of these guys, go in here, it's going to have a clipping group, and so we can get rid of that clipping mask. All right, and then we can ungroup these guys. My hotkey for ungrouping has not been working lately. Maybe I have to reset that. Okay, and if I just click on one of these and take a look inside there, that's an REL coming in at 1 point. I know that wasn't 1 point down in ARC. The problem is that when it exports labels, sometimes they can have a weird thing attached to them inside of Illustrator. So how you fix it is you go ahead and you just drag a selection box over all your labels, and then I'm going to use my arrow keys just to move it over once and then move it back once. So I did a right arrow and then a left arrow, and now you'll see that they are a 10-point font. So that fixed that weird little problem. Now I can go ahead and drag that selection box over them again, and I'm going to add a character style to them. I haven't imported my character style, so let's go ahead and get that. Let's see. Load character styles, and then it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to load it from an Illustrator document. So there we go. There are all my character styles. So these guys are selected on screen. Hit capitals. Boom. There we go. So that's set them all. So they're in a Universe 12-point condensed, looking pretty good. And now I can go around and I'm going to lock my labels again, and I'm going to open up my simple places again. And if I zoom in here, I know that this symbol right here needs to be replaced with the capital. Well, once I have one symbol selected up here in the menu, from this drop down replace, I can hit capital, and I can go through and just select those out real quick, right? So Caracas, and of course I'm going to have to move and fix the type, but that's the job of a cartographer, right? So once I go through and I fix these all up, and to move with the hand tool, I'm just pushing my space bar down, and that lets me move around. So I have just a selection tool, but as soon as I push the space, it turns in the hand. I can click, I can move, and then it goes right back to my selection tool when I let go of the space bar. Lima, Paz, Sucre. I'm not sure, is there 2 capitals in Bolivia? I'll have to look that up. So it's always important for you to, make sure you're doing things right. Asunción. You guys get the deal, right? So I got 2 of them down here. I think they're hiding underneath each other, so obviously I'm going to have to work on these labels. Oh, got to choose one. There we go. Santiago, Chile is actually up in the mountains right here, or is it on the coast? So now, pretty sure, well, we'll have to go and take a look. I'm going to make a guess. I think it's on the coast. All right. Okay, so went through and changed all those up. Brasilia, capital of Brazil, needs to be switched out as well. Okay. Now I can lock those symbols out and open up my labels again, And now I just need to go through and fix these guys. So this is the job of a cartographer, just getting these things lined up in the best place. Ascension, is it going to work? It's going to be kind of difficult. It has to come out. Monteverde, I think because it's on the shore, I can go ahead and put it out in the ocean. Buenos Aires. Now I might need to stack these labels, so I just get my T tool, go out, stack it. There we go. And then if you need to change the gap between the two, you can come over to your character palette and work on that. Looks like it's kind of big right now. Maybe if I went with like an 11, that looks good. Now that broke its connection to the capitals. See, it's got the little plus on it now in the character style, and that just means it's been modified. I'm okay with it. I can live with it. Santiago. And you just get a feel for how to place these. Try and keep them within the country that they belong to, and realize you're going to have to label some other things here. I might get rid of this all the way. Lima's out on the shore, so I probably could get away with putting it out, right? Quito, Bogota. Now I'm going to have to label the country inside of each one of these things. Caracas. Now Caracas is a shore city, so I could go up in there. Panama City. Now that one maybe I need to go a little bit smaller, like 11, and cheat it. And I don't think I want it stacked. There we go. Let's try that. There we go. So you kind of get the point. You just move the city labels around until they get just about right, and then you got to do the next one, right? So it's pretty important for us to have the countries labeled. So there they all are. I'm going to lock off my other ones, and then I'm going to drag a selection box. I probably have to go in there and get rid of a clipping mask. Yep, of course. Let's get rid of that guy. Let's ungroup them. So there we go. So there are all my country names, and they probably have the same problem. Yep, they have 1-point font. So I'm just going to hit my right arrow, my left arrow, boom, there they are. And then I'm going to go ahead and give those the countries style, and there they are. All right, and so now I can go through and move all those guys. Peru can remain its standard size. Bolivia probably can as well. Some of these little cities might have to go. Chile's a little bit big, so I'm going to have to reduce its size. I can take it down, maybe 12-point, that'll fit in there. That little city right there might have to go. I don't know. I don't know if I'm even going to label these, this little island range. I'll just move that out of the way for now. Argentina will fit. Uruguay is going to have to go way down. So you want to try and get it to fit in the country if possible. Right now they have a tracking that's about 100. I could change that, take it to 50 or 75 even, and that gets it to fit in. Paraguay, to reduce its size a hair. All right, get it in there, and then maybe just take that down to maybe 75 tracking so it fits in nice. And I can also use my arrow keys for fine adjustments. Zoom back out, and that's pretty much how you go, right? So you just move through this entire map and get everything all labeled and fixed out. That is the work of a cartographer now, is getting all those labels to look nice. So let me open up what a finished product might look like. Boom, and there we go. So that was the style that I came up with for my cultural map. I ended up having a smaller label for the smaller cities. And then I have some things to decide on, like, you know, Rio here and Sao Paulo. Those are actually pretty big cities, so should they have the same label? It's probably going to be an intermediate label between the capital and the smaller towns. And I went through and removed some of them that were just in the way, right? So there was a little town here off the coast of Chile that was causing a problem for that label. But in the end, I came up with a good look. If I put a nice title block down here, you know, cultural map of South America, scale bar, maybe some credits on the cartographer, and quite frankly, it'd probably be a good idea to go ahead and give credit to Shaded Relief Archive and Natural Earth, because that's where we got our data from. And then you've got a pretty nice little cultural map. And then to put this into a report or something, you would just go File, Export, Export As, change this guy to a TIFF so it's not lossless, and then use artboards. And this guy is going to be our cultural map. And then when you hit export, it's going to bring up a TIFF options. CMYK is what we're going out with. 300 DPI, that's nice. I'm going to go ahead and embed color profile, and I'm going to stick with art optimized. Under the super sampling, if you choose typed, you could have some problems. None, it usually works pretty good, but I found art optimized to be the best, and it will write that TIFF out in high resolution that can be easily placed right into an InDesign document if it doesn't crash my computer. All right, well, that's all I have for you. If you enjoyed this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time here at Map Practical. Take care.